Minister, I really appreciate being able to raise with you this important issue. Domestic violence continues to be a pervasive problem in our society. Nearly 15% of women between the ages of 18 and 74 have experienced physical and sexual violence in their lifetime, and nearly 31% have experienced psychological violence. May I ask you to outline to me the enhanced supports Budget 2022 will provide to tackle domestic, sexual and gender-based violence?
Thanks, Deputy. And Minister Humphreys, you take this.
Thank you, Deputy Monaghan O'Connor, for raising this issue, and I know it's something that you're particularly interested in. Just to say that the government is committed to tackling sexual and gender-based violence in all its forms and to supporting victims of this heinous crime. My department provides funding to support the work of An Garda Síochána to combat such violence. It also provides funding to promote and assist the development of specific support services for victims of crime within the criminal justice system, which of course includes victims of domestic and sexual crime. The commitment of this government to combating domestic, sexual and gender-based violence and to supporting victims is reflected in the funding allocated under Budget 2022, with a total of €13 million allocated to my department for this. This represents an increased allocation of €5.35 million and will enable us to roll out specific awareness raising and training programmes to combat domestic, sexual and gender-based violence. It will also allow us to provide additional supports to NGOs and specific domestic violence intervention programmes, and it will support a number of frontline activities. As part of this, an additional €1.1 million will be used to put in place a legal advice and legal aid services in court for victims of sexual violence, and €1 million is being provided to the Garda Vote to refurbish and upgrade the Divisional Protective Service units, which will allow us to better support and protect vulnerable victims. The Deputy will be aware that my department is leading the development across government of the third National Strategy on Domestic, Sexual and Gender-Based Violence. This plan will outline how the government will radically improve services and supports for victims and will be the most ambitious plan to date. My department is also currently implementing Supporting a Victim's Journey, our plan to help victims and vulnerable witnesses in sexual violence cases, which was published by Minister McEntee last year. Thanks, and it will reform the criminal justice system.
Thank you, Minister. I welcome the overall funding of over €30 million to help tackle domestic, sexual and gender-based violence, including an extra €1 million to improve An Garda Síochána Divisional Protective Service units. The DPSUs are now in every Garda division in the country and deliver a consistent and professional approach to the investigation of sexual crime, child abuse and domestic abuse. As the Minister is aware, the increased domestic violence incidents this year is not exclusive to my own constituency of Carlow, although I have raised it here on several times. There's over 3,000 extra incidents have been reported during this pandemic in Ireland, and we need better investigations of crime because of this, Minister. Can you tell me what the status is of the plan which will be published in the coming weeks with the ongoing reforms in supporting a victim's journey, plan to help victims and vulnerable witnesses in sexual violent cases?
Well, just to say that, as I said earlier, we have secured increased funding under Budget 2022 to continue the progress made in our work to support the victims of crime and to combat domestic, sexual and gender-based violence. Over the past year, we have already delivered a number of key actions to make our criminal justice system more victim-centred and to improve how we support and protect vulnerable victims, including introduction of preliminary trial hearings, the rollout of the Divisional Protective Services unit, and having spoken to the Gardaí, they said that that particular unit is very, very good because people they have been trained and they have that expertise to deal with victims of violence, and it's important that they get that service. The first cohort of staff at new Sexual Offences Unit in the Director of Public Prosecution's Office formally takes up their roles, advancing the work to ensure training for all personnel who come into contact with vulnerable victims, increasing funding for NGOs, providing court accompaniment and related information and support services.
Thanks,
a
Minister.
review of grants to organisations supporting victims has been undertaken. So there is a lot of work going on in this area.
Absolutely, and thank you, Minister, and I do appreciate these developments. They're most welcome. And it is further great news to see that Safe Ireland and Airbnb have announced the launch of the Domestic Violence Survivor Fund in Ireland, backed by a $350,000 donation from Airbnb. The fund will provide grants to women and children who are escaping abuse. But cash and a place to stay are vital supports. Can you tell me when we will see the support in the private sector, where we are partnering with the NGO sector to develop a new strategy to tackle domestic, sexual and gender-based violence, which was to be published by Christmas? Maybe you can come back in on that. Also, Minister, I want to ask you about a women's refuge for Carlow. It's something I'm really passionate about. I've been constantly calling for extra Garda in Carlow Station because we need them. And also we have a great Carlow's Women Aid, and they're looking for staff. So, Minister, we have great initiatives in Carlow, we have great services, but we need to get extra funding, we need to get all these extra services, and all of them working together will sort out the issues I believe that we need to sort. Thank you very much.
Minister.
Thank you, Cathaoirleach. And Deputy, you're right. We need everybody working together, because that's what does make the difference, and it does provide results. And just to say, regarding the refuge centre in Carlow Kilkenny, the accommodation review, which I understand TUSLA is finalising, has examined the current level of refugee provision, evidence of demand for services and unmet need. It has also done an analysis of proximity to refuge by local communities. The review's findings and the recommendations of the Monitoring Committee of the Second National Strategy on Domestic, Sexual and Gender-Based Violence will inform the Government and TUSLA's future decisions on priority areas for investment and development of services. This includes looking at areas that may lack an existing service infrastructure and that may require future refuge development. And I know, Deputy, that this is something that you are very passionate about, as indeed are the other speakers this morning. In relation to the DPS unit in Carlow Kilkenny, that has been operational since the 7th of January 2019, and 411 reported incidents in 2020 compared to 447 incidents reported up to including the 18th of October this year. And I know that Carlow has seen an increase in reports of domestic abuse, but it's something that government is absolutely committed to acting on.
Thanks, Minister. Thanks.